Go live quick.
I'm live.
I'm alive.
Welcome to the nuttiness. It is no driving gloves.
It is the I can't think of the famous. They've only been saying it for 50 years. It's live. It's Thursday night.
Oh,
It's
live from StreamYard.
Yeah.
Thursday night.
It's TNL.
It's like TMI.
Now sometimes it is TMI.
Most of the time.
NDG, TMI, After Dark.
We have.
So how are you guys doing this week?
Better than you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've avoided going north because there's a bit of a chill. Had
Well,
flurries here this morning.
It was -2 this morning up here in Vermont.
Yeah. I was walking to the car today and I'm going, I can't exactly say publicly what I went through my head, but I couldn't think of anything that would make me want to move any farther north than I am right now.
That's the Kids Bop version. John's version was shorter and pissier. But
yet he grew up in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
Hey now.
I've been here for 15 years, 16 years. It's the longest I've ever lived in one place. So, I mean, I only lived in Illinois till I was 27. So in another 11 years, I'll have lived down here longer than I did up there.
Counting those days down, just another 11 years.
Yeah, if I make it that long.
They're always faster in retrospect.
What is the saying? The days are long and the years are short.
Yeah, or the minutes are long and the years are short.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's especially with kids. But let us not get too weepy, for we have car things to talk about and weather-related ones at that.
Yeah, I think that's what I named the name this show is the Storm Shift. How appropriate without knowing information that was recently learned, which too bad. We'll be vague. Oh. So we've had the lovey-dovey stuff. So let's just jump right in.
Well, so I posed this one. I was kind of proud that you moved it to the top of the agenda for the evening, which was, would you rather have a car for all seasons, or would you rather have a car for each season? And if so, which ones and why?
Well, I, for one, can even go farther. I want a car for each and every task. I think we've covered it on the show that, I kind of think the ideal garage would be like a Bentley Turbo R or a Jeep Wrangler, a Ford Super Duty, and a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something. So if I want sports car, I got it. I got luxury car, I got hauler, I got off-roader, and maybe we throw an amphibia car in there in case I want to go boating. But, so I easily would want a summer car, a winter car, and I don't know, is there such thing as a spring and a fall car?
There could be. I mean, I'd want a pure roadster in the high summer, but then in the spring and the fall, I might want like roll-up windows. But you probably still call those a spring fall car. But I digress.
Yeah.
Well, but Dave, I think that depends on where you live. If you live in the deep South or even the Southwest, I personally wouldn't want a true traditional roadster in the high summer. That to me would become a spring or a fall car, because in the high summer I'd want air conditioning.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like I would want my Porsche Turbo S in the summer with the hard top, and I have my Porsche Turbo S Cabriolet or my Porsche Targa in the spring and fall. And then my my Porsche Dakar in the winter, and then I'm all set.
You guys know me. I'm gonna be stupid about it and just say there's one car that can solve it all. You just need a Model T with all the accessories.
I
Well, I
was
mean, as long as you're okay with a 20-mile-an-hour top speed trundling along with your
There was no
accessories.
limit on the speed. There was nothing about speed. It was about seasons and
Well,
tasks.
okay, but I mean, if you've got one car to accomplish all tasks, I mean, I hope your task is only to go to the train station for your cross-country travel and only to take your goats into town for your business day, because most of us don't live in a place where you can operate a Model T for all occasions, as versatile as they were in their day and age. I mean, you know me, I love the T, like probably as much or more than anyone our age. But this is true, and Disapproving Cat is calling you out on the pure hypocrisy of a Model T air conditioning unit is actually an accessory I've seen, but definitely not period accessory.
Well, I mean, if I also said when I talked about air conditioning, if I lived in the deep south or the southwest, obviously, if I was living in one of those two places, a Model T probably would not cut it in the high summer. But
Does Vintage Air make a kit for a Model T?
I don't know if they do, but I mean, Model T guys are incredibly resourceful. If you're into T's, you're hardy and resourceful. So I know I've seen T guys on the MTSDA message board having adapted small compressors and stuff.
well,
Yeah,
I
and
mean, I like the period steering column fans on the early cars.
well, I mean that,
They
and that
move
brings
enough.
up a good point, which is I kind of think the pinnacle of automotive technology from a versatility standpoint is actually the mid 1940s, because they've still got enough ground clearance to be practical on any road you really have any business going down. They've got enough power and room to be practical most freeway speeds and on most modern roads, etc. And they're enclosed and weather tight. And you probably can get a vintage air kit for them if you live in one of those places where mankind was not actually meant to establish long-term settlements, like the deep south or the southwest.
Do you think our dependence on air conditioning in a car came about because of the loss of the vent window?
Yes.
I mean, I think that the vent window died because air conditioning was becoming an increasingly common option in cars in the late 60s. It's the same reason the convertible went out. Is like, just like everybody who said, ick, an open car in the height of summer in the comments, people wanted that cold, dry air. They didn't just want air movement anymore. And so, smokers' preferences notwithstanding, vent windows were not a thing that people were using and would have paid extra for, so they deleted them. They built in new in-dash ventilation systems that worked well with their air conditioning systems. And from then, at some point in the 20 years after that, AC just became a standard thing that we all get on the cheapest car every time.
See,
Now, that window works all of the time. It just depends on whether you're hardy enough to handle the humidity and temperatures you're exposed to, and how much time you spend sitting still. Because I think standing traffic, which emerged in the 60s, is another thing that killed air movement as a form of human comfort in cars, is because it doesn't work if you're just sitting there sucking tailpipe.
No, I see. I honestly believe that if vent windows were optional, people would buy them. I think if the manufacturers are looking for an easy way to make a few extra bucks, even though they probably have to re-crash test every vehicle because they changed the window shape, I think people would pay for vent windows. They're nice just to get that little bit of breeze. I mean, they went out of fashion because all it did is scream, "Hey, I'm a cigarette smoker." But as vent windows went away, then we got the vent visors. Do you remember those plastic things that went around your windows that allowed you to crack your window an inch or so?
Our truck had them.
Yeah, I think that was the replacement for the vent window when the vent windows went away. But like I said, then it just screamed you were a smoker, etc. So I think those went away with cigarettes. I mean, you can still buy them now and put them on a lot of cars, but I just always like that little bit of cracked window to ventilate.
I'm a fresh air enthusiast, but I admit that that's just in the minority, you know? And as Boss Kettering famously may or may not have said, parts left off cost nothing and cause no warranty concerns, right? So like you don't have to crash test your vent windows. You don't have to worry about them causing some kind of dealer scandal because the weather seals don't fit or whatever. I mean, it's just nobody gets them. You want cold air, you got the AC. You want fresh air, it comes through the cowl vent with the AC air.
Disapproving cat says vent windows at 80 miles per gallon on the highway would be loud as hell. Well, it depends how fast you're going to get that 80 miles per gallon. But if you were going 80 miles per hour and you had your window, because this happens to me, you have your front window cracked about an inch and you have your right rear window cracked about an inch so that you get good ventilation across the car, so that your cigar smoke gets extracted. It's loud as hell.
Oh yeah, no, I used to put down the windows on my father-in-law's HHR on the highway when I was alone because I wanted the fresh air and not the nasty smelling AC. And it would go whoa, 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 whoa. You couldn't drive like that. They're just not aerodynamically set up like that. Which plays into, I think, what was the Freudian slip there is it also affects the streamlining of the car, which could impact your fuel economy, which, you know, you're pinching every gallon these days.
I'm just picking on you, DC there. He came back and corrected.
Yeah.
But so, okay.
You know, actually what I think Dave said it, or maybe John, I don't remember now, but yeah, what I miss the days of the, you know, opening and closing cowl and, you know, side vents on cars. That's what we need back.
Studebaker had that. We had a 50 Studebaker, and the side cowl vents on that thing were incredible. You know, all the fresh air you could want directed right where you'd want it, and you know, it wasn't making a bunch of noise. You know, they were screened so you weren't getting bugs in. No, that was ideal. I loved that. Yeah. That plus your rubber fan on the steering column, that'd be all you need.
I was trying to think that it might have been our old Chevelle that had the little knobs for the vent windows. And I think my 85 CRX actually had ventilation that you could just have fresh air come in through the dashboard vents. It wasn't part of the AC. It wasn't part of anything. It was just outside air forced through the car and a filter or two. Okay. Occasionally a butterfly.
Not a great filter since letting butterflies through.
Well, we weren't too concerned about that when we were 17 years old. I didn't need filters.
Butterfly, fine.
Matter of fact, my camels didn't even have filters.
I was saying when the wasps came in, that was the problem.
That's when we decided to put the filters back in.
No, I had the bee incident and the Isuzu. That's when I sideswiped the trailer. So,
ooh, that sounds like a story.
No, I just was driving along through a neighborhood and had a bee fly into my truck while I was driving, and it kind of came in between I wore the Oakleys that were, you know, wrapped around your face, you know, the cool stuff in 1991. And the bee got right up in there, and I went to swat it. When I swatted, I swerved, and the truck sideswiped a utility trailer that was in a neighborhood. And by the time I regained myself, I went to drive back to figure out, hell, I'll just drive around the block and come back. Well, I got lost in the subdivision. So by the time I got back, you know, they weren't very happy. It was a brand new trailer the guy had just bought. And,
but let's hope he got his insurance on it.
And I don't believe insurance was involved, but I will thank you, Dad. Dad took care of the situation.
He got a new trailer out of it somehow.
Yeah, my dad got a slightly damaged trailer. However that worked, and I ended up getting it. It tore the it contacted the truck right behind the right rear wheel. Ooh. And tore the quarter panel pretty much clean off to the bumper and then V-shaped the bumper and ended up having that fixed. And that's when the truck became black and purple, because before that it was just black and we painted.
There was some bruising.
Wouldn't it have been more fitting if it would have been black and blue after it got in an accident like that?
I guess
the
truck ended up being black, blue, and purple. It had it had purple on it. It had blue accessories, and then the base color of the truck was black.
And then after like a week or two, you get a little yellow and green on it. Yeah.
I thought my Corvair was
colorful. I always wanted to do that poison green, is what I called it. That day glow green that they had on the Open Up and Say Ah album.
Mm-hmm. But, thinking about going back to where this all started with the conversation, all season vehicles, I really think anymore, kind of, if we wanted to look at an all season, all purpose vehicle, I anymore, I kind of just consider, and it's been this way since the mid 90s, really modern pickup trucks are the all season, all purpose vehicle. Because number one, especially if you get back in the day in the 90s, an extended cab, now crew cabs or double cabs or whatever the company is calling them, because each one has to have their own name for it.
Well, it's because
you've got your family vehicle, you have a truck, so you have a box to haul things. All season, you've got, depending on what truck package you buy, you've got a 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive vehicle. It to me, it's really become the all-purpose, all-season vehicle. I mean, there's SUVs as well. I think those lack in the all-purpose side of things with the hauling. Most people I know, barring those that are on this show and most of our listeners, probably don't want to haul a greasy engine in the back of their brand new Cadillac Escalade, but I would. But that's where the pickup truck, you're a little better off with that because you clean the bed out and everything's fine.
And that when I had my 12 F-150, like you said, crew cab, whatever, 4-door thing. I had, at the time, it was a new style tonneau, and now they're everywhere. I want to say black. They probably come in colors now, but they were like 3 pieces, and you could fold them up. But you had this hard tonneau, and it sealed the bed. The bed in my truck was virtually watertight and dust tight, and I always felt it was like driving a Grand Marquis. It would seat 6 people if you really wanted it to. That center console was a little bit of a trouble if you wanted the third people, but you could get 6 people in the cab, and you had a full-size trunk. And I'm going, this is the full-size car. And you wonder why Ford did the Lincoln Mark LT and Escalade. Escalade did the, was it called the EXT or something? The Avalanche version of the Escalade.
Mm-hmm.
They were 4-door sedans. And I've recently seen on some of the hideous car Facebook pages, which I don't think looks too bad. And it was like a Tahoe that they cut the rear glass section off and made it into a trunk. And it really doesn't look too bad. It just looks like an inflated 4-door sedan.
Well, didn't Ford did that with their truck over in Europe, didn't they? I don't remember what it was called, but for a short period of time, I think it was the F-150 chassis and front end, and then they had a special kind of body like that, where instead of having any back end, it had a trunk. I wish I could remember what it was, but I think there was a short period of time in Europe where Ford even did something like that.
They just call that a business coupe, don't they?
Well, back in the day.
Yeah. So, and it occurs to me that Ford has actually then even recognized that there's a niche for this in the intermediate field, because the Ford Maverick is a front wheel drive pickup truck for people that don't want to drive anything as big as an F-150, because that's my big objection. Like driving that F-250 around, like it'll haul anything, and yeah, the family's comfortable in it. It'll do 80 with the cruise and the air on, etc. But you get to the parking lot, especially this time of year when it's all packed up with snow, and it's a miserable beast to move around in, especially with the hubs locked in.
Now, the Maverick is what Ford put out to replace the Focus Fusion lineup. So that's what they were going for, is that four-door, and you get that in bed. And of course, if you spend $1,000 for the tonneau, and I've actually seen some with a topper, if you want that station wagon look, I'm not a big fan of the Ford Maverick. I really, really wanted to be. And it is also available 4-wheel drive. If you said front wheel drive, but it's available both ways, and hybrid.
But we know what that means when one version is front wheel drive and the other was 4-wheel drive. That means enhanced front wheel drive. It's not really a 4-wheel drive.
Well, it's just
with a transfer case, a Dana 20 and Dana 41's front and rear, 411. That's a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
None of this. Oh, it's a tall Fusion, and sometimes the rear wheels come along to help if you're struggling in a slippery parking lot. That's not 4-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive on World War II. Dodge Power Wagon is 4-wheel drive.
We'll call it all-wheel drive, but yeah, maybe it does come with locking rear hubs. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be hilarious. If not, Warren should introduce them. I mean, because World War II Jeeps didn't have locking hubs. They were just driven all the time. And so Warren came along and invented the locking hub, right? I'm not totally a 4-wheel drive buff, despite my unhinged rant a moment ago. But I know enough to be dangerous. And one of those things is I'm pretty sure that Warren's big niche, big entree into the post-war 4x4 market was introducing the locking front hub, which produced a vehicle that was much friendlier on a paved road and got better mileage, because when you unlocked the front hubs, you made everything roll that much easier. But correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't believe you're wrong.
Oh,
but
good.
I'll correct you anyway, just so that.
Okay. Make up alternative facts to prove I'm wrong. No, Dave. Warren made its niche with winches in the 30s. They were already around. No, see.
Hey, making up alternative facts is so 21st century.
It is, and why not? Put it down the memory hole if you don't like it. That's what Derek always says. Change it.
Yes. Sorry, I'm
those people out.
Trying to refresh my memory here, but it's not working. So.
F5, I think.
Yeah, that didn't work either.
So the Corvair is my attempt at getting a multitasker vehicle, because like I would love to have the big rambling garage full of every specialized vehicle I can think of, but reality says that I get one, maybe 2 cars tops, and only one of those should be really esoteric. And so the Corvair was something that I thought, it's got I was thinking mutt Jeep, because the M151 Ford Jeep in the early 60s was supposedly dangerous because it too had a swing axle rear suspension. I was like, well, if it was good enough for Ford Army Jeeps, then it must be good enough for my not a Subaru here for Vermont. And so far, I mean, it's been pretty good. It's not raised at all, except it's got 14-inch wheels and 195/75s on it, which is a taller than stock tire combination. But I've never felt uncomfortable taking it down any of the more primitive roads that I've encountered. And it's small, which makes it nimble. And I really love that about it. And it's light, which makes it nimble, and it doesn't require a bunch of power. And it's very simple. So if something weird happens off-road, as long as it's not automatic transmission related, I can probably handle that too. Now, it doesn't have skid plates or anything, which I would never do any like serious fire road exploration or anything with it. But I had always planned on doing those things.
Well, let's narrow down this question a little bit, because like I said, I would take, simple. My preference would be to have a car for every day of the week. And you're being practical about it, Dave, and you're saying, well, I kind of did it because I have the truck and you have the Corvair. So you kind of want a car tuned to the season. And Derek just said, I'll just live with one and take a Model T. Let's kind of take the Model T out of the equation. What would you can only have one car to drive year round, and we'll say Midwest. So we're not doing the extreme snows and that you get in the Northeast. You're not getting the extreme heat you're getting in Phoenix and in Birmingham. You're kind of where Derek is, where you're going to get some snow when they can actually remove snow off the road. You're going to get kind of discomfort, uncomfortable July and August where it's hot, but you're going to get nice springs and that. What do you think would be a reasonable, practical? I guess the question now becomes, what would be a reasonable, practical, everyday car?
I mean, barring what I have now, Ford Model A, because it's simply the best car. Period. I mean, it's got everything, and if it doesn't have it, there's an upgrade already available for it. And unless you're dealing with extremes of heat or snow or whatever, it's going to go anywhere, do anything, you'll always be able to get parts for it. Ford Model A. There, Derek, you get what's left over.
I like the Model A idea. I think I'm going to add in that, if I would probably take a Model A if freeway didn't exist.
Oh, but that's what T5s or S-Rods or whatever are for, and better brakes.
Well, true. I guess, if we're allowed to modify, that's a different situation. I'm not sure which way we're taking.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is pretty bolt-on because Ford basically just improved the Model A platform through 1948. So, like,
well, yeah, but
we're not
again,
putting Mustang 2
it's modifying
and
it.
small block, but like, yeah, I mean, 40 Ford brakes and an S-Rod, and I mean, you could do 65, 70 if you wanted to. The wind resistance is more of a factor after a while with only 40 horsepower, but then again, like, downdraft carburetors, high compression heads, that's all out of the catalog stuff that wouldn't get you kicked out of the all Model A meet, So
Yeah.
This is why I say Model A, best car for this. I mean, on paper, a Plymouth from that era is the same thing, maybe better, but it's not a Model A in the 21st century, which a Model A is.
Right. And I think that, and I agree with you, Dave. Model A would be high on the list. I think if I'm going to add in family and maybe a bit more safety features, than what a Model A might have, especially in, the body, things like that. Probably should come as no surprise to you, Dave, and maybe not to you either, John, but first generation Falcon.
Oh, yeah. That's the Model A of the post-war era.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the Mustang tie-in, the parts supply is just as good. That's a great choice.
Yeah. Well, and I have one. So, yeah, it's a great all-around car.
Well, and the natural inclination is to say, well, you can't kill a straight six, a slant six, the Plymouth Valiant, but Valiant parts are not like Falcon parts. There's not that close tie-in with the Barracuda because the E-body is, well, I shouldn't say the Barracuda, the Challenger and the Cuda, because the E-body is not the A-body. The E-body is a shortened B-body. So, if you want that interchangeability, you're looking at a Corvette or a Satellite, and then the body panels and stuff aren't there. So, disapproving camp says I'm too slow at 65 or 70, and I say that's what the passing lane is for, and I won't be using it. So.
That's what the shoulder's for, by the way, 65 or 70.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I'm not driving into Birmingham or Detroit, or if I am, I'm taking service streets, because I know where I'm going in a car like that is not the same place that I'm going. And thank God it's not, because those are usually nicer drives in a car like that. I mean, every time I go into Detroit anymore, I get stuck in bumper traffic because somebody blew up a fuel truck under an underpass. So, like, it's not like it's that much faster to take the road with no intersections. I have been in New England too long. I love it. I'm not coming back.
You've been in
That's
New
what you
England
think.
too long. I've been in Birmingham too long. Derek's just a transient hobo.
Pretty much at this point. I'm just there. What's the old song? I'm an everywhere man.
I've been everywhere, man. The Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, thank you. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
I was thinking King of the Road. Third box
King of the Road. Yeah.
midnight train. Destination Bangor, Maine. Yeah,
I'm a
but the trains
traveling
aren't run
man.
anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, you made a lot of stops all over the world. You and Rick Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that traveling man, didn't his plane go down in flames? Like, don't travel with him.
I have to get on a plane tomorrow. Would you not talk like that?
I'd love not to talk like that. Let's change that subject right away.
Ah. So okay. So Dave's at a Model A. I'm at a Falcon. John, did you answer yet?
I have not answered because you guys are going, I don't know if I'm going to get in a Model A and say start in DC and drive Interstate 50 or Highway 50 across the country, or even, I don't even know if I'd want to take a Model A and do a trip on Route 66. The Falcon, I can see because it's modern enough that it gets away with it. But you know me, I kind of want some of my creature comforts. And I'm sitting here thinking, now, do I really want to take people with me? Or I'm not saying I want a sports car, but what would I want to do that with? And it's
So
just,
wait, you don't want to take people with you. So it's either an Indy car or a Formula One car.
I was
well,
thinking
there's
crotch
lots
rocket.
of things. There's BAC monos and the
Clearly,
Ariel Adams
Okay.
and things like that.
Yeah, let me correct myself. You want a monopost.
at what point is it better just to take a plane and rent a convertible when you get there?
Never. As Derek said.
Well, but if we're going to do that, now we got to talk about what plane we're taking. Are we taking a DC-3 or a Tin Goose or
Camel.
Maybe a Wright Flyer Model E, 1905 Model E Wright Flyer. I don't know.
Boeing 247. It's the only way to fly. Transcontinental and Western Airlines. Yeah, slow but reliable. We also use the giant concrete arrows set into the ground, none of this GPS navigation stuff.
Ah, I love those. They're still out
computers,
there.
They could go down anytime. Those concrete arrows are forever. We just
Yeah, they're still out there.
after dark.
Yeah, I really don't know what I would want because now I've taken the question in my head. What would be the best car to have for every situation?
Yeah, I mean, and some of this is what is every situation to you, right? Because I mean, when I lived in Michigan, my Corvair would not have been a practical every situation car. I attempted to build that in my second Falcon, which was a 62 Falcon upgraded with a 75 Granada engine and a T5 and disc brakes and all these things that I thought I needed in order to safely get in and out of Detroit at 80 miles an hour so that people didn't run me over from behind in their sinister Chrysler 300.
I think I would go with a 95 or a 96, and you can insert whether it be Oldsmobile, Chevrolet, Cadillac, or Buick, but probably go with the Buick Roadmaster wagon.
Lovely. Great choice.
With the LS motor in it, or the LT motor. I guess it was LT at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I learned from the guy that built the Stalker V6 kit car that I had, and that he used one as a tow vehicle. Tows 5,000 pounds, tons of space, 25 miles a gallon all day long. And it's a Corvette motor. I mean, if you want to get something modern, I think that's it. And I don't know if they've built anything that's that equivalent since.
Only SUVs. I mean, that's what that production line became was the SUV, the Yukon.
But the SUV is not the same thing.
No, it's not. But
Yes.
There's that type of car is gone. I mean, even when they, the Chrysler, the 300 Charger platform, I can't remember what
The
it's called.
Magnum.
The Magnum.
Yes, but that was not the same because it was not body on frame, and that was a major characteristic of that late B body wagon that everybody loves. Plus that big stout. If they had built a body on frame engine into that LS, or body on frame wagon into that LS era, that would have been an incredible car. And thankfully, I have always encouraged people to make whatever car they want out of the parts they find lying around. So someone could easily build that. And I would love to have an 80s B body, a square one, with an LS drivetrain in it. I've always said that. And when my kids were younger, that would have been the excellent car for me because we lived in Michigan and we were always on the interstate, and we really could have used that, power. But and that would be our Cadillac with an LS would be a brilliant car because I just drove it today, and even on these crap roads, Vermont has run out of salt, so like the intersections are all still like slushy and scary. But we've got snows on all of our stuff. So I'm driving around in this gangster-looking brown '83 Cadillac to the grocery store and whatnot. My driveway's not plowed, but this thing is like a half-ton truck. I mean, yeah, and it's got this little 4.1 engine in it, and it's only got like adequate power. You want to conserve your momentum and whatnot, but it really is just. I'm really impressed with this 41-year-old Cadillac and just how capable it really is of everything I've asked it to do. And my only complaint would be, again, like the truck, it's a bit long for me, but it is at least lower, which is nice, not only from a handling perspective, but just from a comfort at kind of knowing where my nose is and such when I'm parking.
So, Dave, you're saying you like it long and low, right?
No, I'm saying I like it short and low. Yeah. But the Cadillac being long and low is my next best choice. No, the Corvair and the Falcon are my perfect size cars. The Corvair is a smidge smaller than the Falcon, and the Falcon was, I think, ideal, and the Corvair is not too small, but I will say I wish the seat track was mounted a couple inches further back sometimes because my knees get tired.
And to compound on that, Dave, I think probably if we were to pick the most versatile of those lineups, I would love either a Corvair wagon or a Falcon wagon.
I take the Falcon because I don't like the engine placement in the Corvair wagon because it's under the cargo.
Well, that's true. I mean, but there's still a lot of space back there.
Well, I'm not talking about losing the space. I'm just talking about I don't like the idea of having to bring the engine up or access the engine through the interior of the car.
Well, yeah. Good point. Fair point.
So I don't know. I mean, they're fine.
That was a '60s thing though, because we did that with all of our A100 bands and all that. You just got into.
Oh
like
yeah.
Like Derek was saying, a new Escalade, you put a motor in the back. Well, hell, back then, brand new car, you just stuck the motor right inside the car with you.
Yeah, but that's where it belonged. That was to make it run.
Take that plastic cover off, and you can keep your coffee warm. I mean.
That engine in that second Falcon I hauled home from a family vacation from North Carolina back to Michigan in a cradle that I built ahead of time to accept it. Now, admittedly, this was a clean, already rebuilt engine, but boy, was it weird coming back with all the luggage piled around this 250. And the car handle's a little weird with it way in the back.
While we're talking about, let's bring back old things and let's bring, old thoughts. Did either one of you see the news out of Dodge this week where the head of Dodge Performance said, hey, we want to build a inexpensive muscle car, i.e. $30,000, which probably means $40,000, bare bones muscle car. The new Dodge Daytona Charger or whatever, they're $60,000. The Camaros and that, I mean, I think a Mustang GT is $50,000 or $60,000 anymore. What do you think? There's a market for that? Should Dodge try it? Because he said we'll build it if people want it, which I don't really believe. I don't believe Stellantis has money to build anything.
I think 100%. without a doubt, if they were to build it, people would buy it because you're going to get, in my opinion, my thoughts are that you're going to get the car people out there that want something like that because they are still out there. But what you're probably also going to get is a lot of the guys that like to collect the higher end, supercars and, performance cars, your guys that are owning the new C8 Corvette Z06s and the McLarens and all those cars. They're going to buy an affordable muscle car like that for their humdrum daily drives when they don't want to take the supercar out and drive it around. So I think there's a market for it.
I just want to throw out, Neil posted that a base charger is $34K. A base charger in not the 4-door that we've been building for 20 years. The new charger is what I'm talking about. Looks like base is $59,595 and Scat Pack is $73,985.
So
I want to know why Neil thinks it needs a radio. Like, remember back in the day when we had radio delete? Come on.
I'll be honest.
Speaking of one-season cars,
I got these Raycon over-the-ear earbuds for Christmas, which I absolutely love because my AirPods hurt my ears. And I put one of those on the right side, my right ear, and just turn on my phone. Why do I need the radio?
So my thought is that this is all Dodge has got to sell anymore is this performance brand, is because, I mean, they took the trucks away, right? And that was got to be Dodge's bread and butter. And
well, they were, and I believe they took the trucks away in anticipation of killing Dodge. It was conversations a few years ago when Ram started, is that I believe the game plan is to keep Jeep and the trucks. So you make the Ram trucks and you have Jeep and you let Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge die. And that's what we're seeing. And they do have I did get a ad today on Facebook for the Dodge Hornet. If you do remember, they make
I do, yeah. but yeah, no, I think that the Viper Boxster is a great idea. I mean, if Dodge has got to work with what it's got, right? And so if it can part spin something together out of existing lines, sort of Plymouth Prowler style, and build something that doesn't remind everybody off the bat of the was it the Chrysler Crossfire Roadster?
Oh yeah, it was built on the Mercedes.
Right. And I mean, it's funny because the headline, when I saw this headline run, it was paired with an early 2000s concept from Dodge of a similar kind of Miata fighter vehicle. But I say great. I once went on a lengthy rant about how I felt like the Corvette had diverged too far from Chevrolet to make it worthwhile, because when it was built from literal Chevrolet sedan parts, like that gave some panache to the whole Chevrolet line by its existence, and vice versa. But at this point, I mean, there's no Corvette DNA in any other Chevrolet, nor vice versa. And in some ways, it would be cooler if the Corvette were built off of, the equivalent Chevrolet passenger car platform, and just was the highest capability version of that. So it would be neat to see Dodge do something with that. But whether the market will bear it, whether that is a winning line for Dodge, I have no idea. I've never pretended to have any idea what the market wants, but I do know that when we all got fired up about some Chevy coupe concept a decade or so ago at the North American International Auto Show, Chevy dangled that for a while and then yanked it and said, no, that's not going to happen. That would eat Camaro sales, which is already eating too many Corvette sales. So no. But Dodge doesn't have that problem.
Let's say Dodge introduces this high performance vehicle at this inexpensive price point. Do you think the wrong people will buy it and then be upset? Because I'm looking for an inexpensive car with a $400 or $500 a month car payment. This car is going to hit that. But then all of a sudden I'm get it, and it's this sports car beast thing, and it's not the Nissan Versa or the Altima or the Camry that I think I wanted and I thought I was buying. Do you think that would hurt the car? Do you think there would be that mistake in purchasing, which would come back and bite the car in the ass? Because the objective is building a car at a price point, but that price point also puts it into, hey, everybody can afford it.
Right. Well, I think the answer is that you first generation Mustang it. And so there's everything from a Shelby Tune GT350 level of car that's really high strung and wouldn't be for those people, and it's probably $60,000 or more. And there's a pedestrian, softly sprung, parts binned version of it with an automatic and a fuel efficient version of the engine that those people can buy and tool around in, and allows them to say, yeah, you can get into this car for $39,999. But in reality, the version that everybody wants and the version that's pictured in the ad is pushing
but
$7,000.
But now you're playing the Cybertruck game. Well, a Cybertruck's going to come out at $40,000. Well, then everybody orders a Cybertruck and they go, oh, well, geez, everybody's going to pay $100,000 for these. So we'll just get rid of the base model. And that's kind of where I was saying, you know, Neil was right that the Charger in the last generation was $34,000. And our former host, Sean Yoder, and I were conversing a little bit on Facebook about how expensive this new car is. And it went from a base of 34 to a base of 60. It doubled. And is it going to come down? Yeah, there might be cheaper versions here in the future, but okay, Dodge introduces this super high performance car that's supposed to be, say, $35,000. But okay, we're going to do the higher end models because we want to make the most money. Now all of a sudden it comes out at 60 or 70. They're going to take crap for that too. Is, well, you're not making the cheap ones like you promised. It's, I don't know if it's, like I say, sometimes cars aren't fun, and it's just an interesting.
Well, I wonder if is it maybe the not. Hang on, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say here. Sorry. Is it just maybe the fact that the loudest voices are the ones that complain, that there are people out there that actually enjoy the cheap version, the low cost version, and because they enjoy it and like it, we don't hear from them.
The nice, we'll say our Camry and Accord owners and that they love them, or the people with the Civics that buy the base Civics and don't buy the Civic SIs or SIRs or whatever the hell the high performance Civics are called now. And it's driving me crazy. I can't remember what the high performance Civic is, but, or the people that buy the Corollas and not the GR Corolla, whatever. That, yeah, I believe that there are people that just kind of want and are happy with, because that's all they need. But you're going and you're marketing that, hey, we'll build this if you want it. And then, okay, we want it. And it becomes the GTO, the new GTO is, it's all of a sudden a parts bin mash of everything out of Australia. And it's really not even a new car. It's just an Australian car with American safety standards added to it.
Yeah.
And it's, build what, tell us what you're going to build. We tell you we want it, and then you build something different and say, this is what it is. The other one that came out of Dodge that I saw about a week ago, did you see their idea for their an all-electric car? And basically,
well, that's never been tried before.
Putting an all-electric drivetrain in the PT Cruiser and bringing back the PT Cruiser as an all-electric.
I mean, it's interesting.
They just have a bunch of parts laying around Detroit, or what?
Well, I mean, one of my former colleagues loved to tell the story that the brake drums on the 80s minivans are the same as the brake drums on the 60s A-bodies, because they just kept the tooling and kept building that part and just integrating it into their new design. So yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me to learn that Chrysler still had some of that stuff around and was like, yeah, we'll do it. But of course, that's, they tested Corvair drivetrains in a 52 Chevy body. So like, they probably have some stuff around just for the sake of having stuff around too, that they occasionally cannibalize for projects like this. Doesn't mean that they're planning on building it with the original stuff, which probably wouldn't even pass modern crash standards, would it?
I doubt it.
It's hard to say, but I did see a conversation. I can't remember where it was, what group, and what social media, if it was an Instagram or a Facebook or whatever thing, where you can go back and you can buy, a reissue Rolex, or you can go back and buy a reissue this and a reissue that. And why can't we go back and buy a reissue 67 Camaro or a 65 Mustang or a 62 Corvair? Why can't the manufacturers reissue these things that we want? Now, we all know the answers, but it's a nice fantasy that.
Yeah, well, and the irony is that there's so many of the originals still around that if you really wanted that, you could have it. You just have to put your money where your mouth is, and it's going to be probably more money than you want. If you want to have it all with your AC and your cruise control and your fuel injection, kinds of things.
You can pick up a catalog and build a brand new 67 Camaro out of a catalog, order the body, blah, blah, blah. All you got to do is come up with a VIN number for the thing. Yes. But to sit down and order a factory built, hey, Ford, build me a 67 Mustang. That'd kind of be cool, but.
Well, as someone pointed out when I was ranting about GM not having an in-house restoration service, is that there's plenty of private shops that are not corporate owned within spitting distance of all of these factories that would love to build you whatever level of restored vintage American car your heart may desire. You just got to pick up, the internet and be like, street rod shop near me, and Google will basically, that's all Google does anymore, is try to sell you stuff. So, and then you can vet these people and find the Camaro of your dreams. If that's
that gets you into a problem I identified 25 years ago in college, and I know other people are very much aware of this. Unfortunately, all we know was car people, but take somebody who does want that, we'll say 67 Camaro, because you can buy everything out of a catalog. You can pay a shop to build it, and you get it done, and you get it from the shop, and say the shop's in Idaho and you live in Iowa. You get the car, you've got this brand new 67 Camaro, blah, 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 and it breaks. Who fixes it? You've got an original 67 Camaro that you had restored, and it breaks. Who fixes it? Because the independent garages don't necessarily exist anymore. Yes, they do, but is anybody smart enough to work on a carbureted car other than the guy that built it? That's the other issue. Is that's why it would be nice to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ford, build me a 67 Mustang, or hey, Chevrolet, build me a 67 Camaro, so that when it breaks, I can take it back to the Chevy dealer.
So what you really want is dealer service on legacy products.
Yes.
That would be smashing. Imagine that. Like, you just roll in and you're like, hey guys at the Ford garage, put down those wrenches around the Excursion, because you got a 61 Galaxy 500 to work on.
Yeah, Neil, I saw
the salt lifter cams again.
I saw the supercar.
Hey, if you've got a Mercedes, you just have to send it to California.
Well, right. But when it breaks locally, I mean, you still have to send it back to California. That's as bad as hiring the shop in Idaho. Weren't you listening?
Yes. I saw the Supercar Blondie video or something where they ordered their Dodge Ram out of China. And there's one out there where they ordered a Range Rover out of China, and all these things come in at 3/4 scale. Kind of cutest little things for $4,000. It's amazing what you can get on Temu.
So if you order a Bentley, it comes out Model A size. That's perfect.
That's what you need to do, is order your F-250 through Temu, and it'll show up and it'll be Maverick size.
Yes. It's the Ranger they should have built. Brilliant. Be like, I got T-Mood and I liked it. The Katy Perry song, I think.
The one time it was beneficial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's caveat emptor. All of this is caveat emptor, right? If you do your research, you look into it ahead of time, you figure out how I'm going to deal with this thing long term, and then you pull the trigger. But if you go off half-cocked, you're likely to get burned no matter what it is. You know, I kind of view old car ownership as a lot like boat ownership, because, like, you know, you gotta have your marina, your boat dealer. You gotta have, there's an enormous used market out there for what are essentially recreational vehicles. And I think, you know, we're being spoiled for service. I mean, that's how you succeed in America selling new cars, is you have a service network that's everywhere for them. It's not the base price that sold Fords in the end. It was the fact that there was a Ford agent in every single town. So when you were crossing the country ever so slowly from DC to Sacramento, and your block split in half in Podunk, Idaho, they could fix it right there and then, which wasn't the case if you were driving a Willys or a Continental or something off-brand. And that still holds true today. And it is the barrier, I think, for a lot of people when it comes to old car ownership, is they don't know who to turn to for service. They don't know what to pay. And there are certainly a lot of organizations out there that would like to educate them on that, but they have to be willing to do that first little bit of research that at least leads them to one of those organizations too.
So I don't know what we determined tonight, other than I don't know what we determined tonight. Did we determine?
Dave likes Corvairs. I like Falcons. And John just rambled on about nothing.
I really thought my defense of the Model A was stronger than my defense of the Corvair, but I do like my Corvair. It's true.
Well, yes, that's true. You did defend the Model A to its.
Yeah. Although, as John says, the Corvair is more acceptable looking to people, right? They especially, I think, like that blank grille-less front end, because it looks like all of the cheaper Teslas running around, which sort of look like Volkswagen Beetles at first glance to me, that don't have a front end. And so I think it's very of the moment right now. Like, it's because it's an air-cooled rear engine, but they don't know that. They just see it and they're like, oh, that's cute.
What you need to do is what they used to do with the Volkswagens, and get yourself one of them Rolls-Royce grill kits for your Corvair.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. They actually did sell an accessory grill for at least the 60s that made it look like a full-size Chevy grill up front, just bolted over that front panel. And it looks pretty cool. I've only ever seen like pictures of like two of them, and I've never seen one in person, but it was a real thing you could get back in the day. And then the Corvair trucks have the air vent, so the cowl vent is right there in that grill up front, so they actually made it functional there.
It'd be cool to like find one of those new in the box, though, the accessory.
Oh, and finding any vintage, I could do a whole show just on my love of period accessories and new old replacement parts, and like, you know, I get more excited over stuff from Western Auto than I do from like new old stock from Ford or Chevrolet or somebody, because I nerd out over that accessory culture, which comes out of me being a huge novelty nerd as a kid.
Now there's a money losing business plan. Retro JC Whitney.
I can think of all kinds of fun ways to lose money. If you're into that, you provide the dough, and I will provide infinite black holes that will be very interesting all the way down.
Let's see here. We're into cars.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's a hole in the driveway you pour money into.
Yep. There's got to be a good acronym like BOAT. Bust out another 1,000. What would cars be?
My wife is fond of fix or repair daily and found on road dead, with reference to the poor F-250, which is, I think, an unfair besmirchification of what is turning into a pretty loyal vehicle for me. But
it's just a freaked over rebuilt Dodge, right?
Oh, the brothers would agree. Yeah, I'm sure.
You know what they say about them. Fix it again, Tony.
Those are the Italian Detroiters.
Yeah, it was a
So
reference
Ren is-
from a TV show back in the day.
Oh, I see. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know my TV. Well, I guess I do know a lot of the back of the day TV. Like I watched a lot of Flipper and the Andy Griffith Show on TV Land as a kid at the daycare. Then you're only allowed to watch so many things.
Can you
And I
give us a
couldn't
good
stand
line from
Nickelodeon.
Flipper, Dave?
I don't. My voice is too deep to do Dolphin anymore, but you get the idea.
You know, I remember that episode.
Yeah, no, it's the one where they gets mistaken for a shark. It's moving, touching, and there's lots of cool plastic boats.
We could close this out the way traditional children's television. Romper, bomper, stomper, boom. Tell me whom. Tell me who I see that today. We have Neil and Disapproving Cat.
And thank you all for joining us.
You know, I just love that we have a disapproving cat. I mean, that's like any cat, but it's great to have disapproving cats watching you. I mean, they're probably just knocking the laptop off the desk while they're trying to watch us talk. And
well, there's a reason that a group of cats is called a glaring.
Well,
and on that bombshell,
be sure to tell somebody about this show if you found value in it, if you loved it. Best way to tell people about the show and get us climbing those ranks, because right now we're in the top 50. We're actually in the top 40. We want to break into the top 30. So tell a friend. We've got some, I keep promising. I've promised for years, but I've been working on the websites and I've been working on the designs. Got some special things coming in the next month or two. So, and technically for free. Anything else, guys?
The America's Weekly Top 40
with Casey Kasem.
I say I can't do a Casey Kasem.
Gee, Scoob. No, I can't do Casey Kasem either.
Like Zoinks.
Like Zoinks. There you go.
Okay, guys. It's time to get off your ass and go burn some gas, because we